Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm James, and let me show you what I have in this box here. I purchased this off eBay recently. Okay, well this is a vintage OS Max 3 RC engine. This is an OS Max 15 RC engine. And I purchased this, like I mentioned, off of an eBay seller. And I don't know if the seller knew too much about the engine. I don't know much about this engine. I just saw it on there and I thought it looked pretty interesting. And they were selling it relatively cheap. And I decided to pick it up. So here's the prop they sent with it. Came with the box. Let me get this out of the way here. And let's see what it looks like. I really wrapped it nicely. So if you're familiar with my channel, you may have seen the previous video I did similar to this, which was on an OS engine, an FP engine that I looked at. And it was sort of in not the best condition when I got it, but I did a little bit of work on it and got it running pretty nicely. And I saw this and I decided to do a similar video. Okay, so there it is. Boy, it has a nice looking little engine. Okay, like I said, this is an OS Max 315 RC, and I'll tell you what I know about it, and which isn't a whole heck of a lot, but I do know something. I did look online for some information, and I found some information. So let me share with you what I know about it. Let's see what came in the box. I think they sent the instructions also. Yes, they did. Boy, this all looks pretty original. Now there's something very interesting about this engine that I'm going to share with you that I didn't know about actually when I purchased it, and I didn't realize it until I started looking into what the engine actually was. But again, here is the instruction manual for it. Now there it is. So it's the OS Max 15 and 15 RC engine instructions. All right, so we'll take a look at this a little bit later, a little bit more detail, but there that is. That's in pretty good condition also. Of course, the box itself looks really nice. And there's the model, made in Japan. Boy, a nice little box. And then here's the engine. I'm going to pull off this fuel line so we can take a closer look at things. Now, I don't know if this is the original needle or not, but it's really clean. The carburetor opens nicely. It's nice and clean. It's an air bleed carburetor, like I mentioned on the OSFP. It's an air bleed carburetor. It doesn't have a low idle screw. It just has an air bleed to adjust the idle, or basically kind of fine-tune the idle, if you will. Then it's got this little stop, this little screw here, kind of it stops the throttle arm where you need it when you want to set it. And let's see what else. Interestingly, it has this is where it sort of gets a little bit interesting, is in the muffler or the silencer. This series came out in about 1955, and the first one was the Max 115 model. That was the original. So that's pretty old. And then in 1958, they came out with the Max 2. And then in 1962, they came out with this, which is the Max 3. And the big difference between, from my understanding, and again, I'm getting this information from a couple sources. The main one that I got is an online resource that you may know of. It's called, I have one of the manuals here. This is for the OS engine. It's I guess it's a Scepter Flight, and it's just basically an online website that it has just tons and tons of old manuals that the people who put the website together, and they're free, you can download them. So again, like this is the FP series, and as I mentioned before, you know, the FP series came out like in the 1980s. This article is 1986, and here's another article I have on the 60s. 60s came out, I think, in the 90s. So the FP series came out in the sort of like the mid 80s. And in any case, so that's the website where I got this article, and that's why I know what I'm about to tell you about the engine, which again, it's very limited. I don't know, I'm not an expert on it, but it's useful information. This article came out in 1966 and by Peter Chin, and talks about the engine. Boy, they really did some detailed engine reviews back in those days. They broke the engines down and they test ran them. They did all kinds of things with them back in those days, which is probably don't see too much of that going on right now. But in any case, so this is my resource for knowing about this engine. Okay, so with reference to this article, and again, you know, go to this website if you find old engines, a place like eBay, you find an old used engine, try this website out, and I'll put a link to it in my description on this for this video so that you can go to it. But so in any case, according to this article, again, the original engine came out in 1955. They came out with the 2 version in 1958, and then they came out with this version in 1962. And the big difference, from my understanding, between the different versions was basically the carburetor setup and some things about the muffler and such. This was the first one that came out with what they call the silencer, and there's 2 models of the silencer. They called them, they were referred to as Jetstream. There was a Type S and there was a Type RC-S, and again, that's what this one is. So the interesting thing about it, well, the S was basically what we would consider now a kind of just what we consider just a normal silencer or muffler. It didn't have any special parts to it or anything. This thing actually has a valve, and I didn't realize it when I purchased it because I did see this sort of hole that's in here. Originally it would have had a valve in here, almost like a butterfly valve, and that basically regulated the pressure coming into the muffler. I'm not sure exactly why it was there, but it would connect with a little connecting rod. It would connect from here to basically the same type of thing. You'd have like an arm, control arm on here. And if you look up the picture here, you may not be able to pick it up because it's not a great picture of it, but you can see here how it comes in 2 parts, and I'll take it apart here in just a minute. And then here's like the control arm, so you can kind of basically see it's not a very good picture, and it's almost like a butterfly type valve in here or something, like it just kind of like moved, sort of like a choke, I guess. And I guess that was just basically to help regulate the engine somehow. So I'm not sure. This person has it plugged up with silicone, and so I'm not sure how well the engine will run without that. I think it's going to be fine, but we'll find out. And then it also has this little extension so that you can actually, this is one of the first engines that came, like I said, with a muffler, and it came with this extension so you can stick it outside of the fuselage. So yeah, cool little engine. So let's go ahead and take a couple closer looks at this thing. It came with this little safety prop nut on here. I'm gonna go ahead and put the prop on it, and we'll start this thing up. My goal is to get this thing started, so let's throw this on here. That's kind of loose. I don't know if probably won't use this prop on here because I don't want it being loose and wobbling around, but we'll just put it on just so that it looks, we can see how it looks. Oops, yeah, it doesn't really, probably should tighten up more, but yeah, it has some pretty good compression and it looks really, really clean. I don't know how this glow plug is. We'll look at the glow plug. But yeah, I want to take apart this silencer and see kind of what this is about. I'm going to pull this off again now that we looked at it. Like I mentioned, 1966 is when this article came out, and usually the articles I would imagine were sort of contemporary with whatever they were reviewing. So I don't know how old this particular engine is. I don't know how long they made these, but 1966 is a long time ago. It has 2 screws that go from, well, this one looks like it must, I'm not sure how it goes because these screws are on the outside. Let's go ahead and take a look at it, because you can see here there's no way to access the screws for the muffler from this side. So they must be inside here somehow. Let me pull this out. That's not bad. Let me get a little tray. So one thing I've noticed when I've looked at engines, older engines on eBay, I know people probably buff these things out. This one looks like that may have happened. That's probably why it's so kind of shiny looking. Somebody may have buffed it out. So you got to be careful, you know, when you're buying these things. I wouldn't spend a lot of money on them unless you really thought it was worth it. But you know, if it's cheap enough, again, this one was pretty inexpensive, and so I grabbed it, and it looked like it was in pretty good condition. Okay, yeah, so there we go. So there's the inside. So yeah, you can see that little the hole on this side now, and yeah, you can kind of see how it was made here. It had sort of like these stops in here, so that little, and then the control arm would go like right here, and then I guess that little guy was in there, and then when you activate it or you use the throttle, it would actually kind of transfer that motion into here, and it would open up that little valve. So it's not in there, so we'll see how that works. I'm sure it works okay because like it says, it came with 2, or basically you could use one of 2 types of silencers with it. So if that were the case, I I would imagine the silencer that didn't have this, it should work fine also. So I'm not quite sure. If you know, let me know if you know why they did this back then, but I don't. I'll have to look into it more. Okay, so there, I just wanted to look inside this thing, so I'm going to go ahead and, I think I'm not going to take it all apart right now. I'm going to assume this thing runs, and we'll find out here in just we'll find out here in just a minute or two. I'm going to get it mounted on my test stand again, and we will try it out. And there's another little hole right here for something. I don't know what that is. So I'm not sure I'll be able to get to this little nipple here when I get it mounted on here, so I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of tubing on it right now. It really is close in there. Okay, well, I just tried it, and this won't fit on here with this in this position. So I think what I'm going to try to do, see if I can, I'm just going to try to flip it over. And I'm not really sure if I look at this diagram, I can't tell. I'm not sure if this was original or not to the engine. Doesn't seem like it is, because they don't show it here. They don't show that little fitting. So yeah, this may have been been put on by somebody else later, but it's sort of in the way, so I'm going to go ahead and flip it over, I think, and see if I can get it to work that way. Seems like that will work. So what I want to do now is I want to get a prop for it, and these old instructions have it right here, and mostly it looks like it's about a size like an 8-inch prop, and they have a 7 and a 9 on here, so I'll look for an 8, and it looks like the pitch is sort of like in the medium range, 5 to 6. Nothing too aggressive. It looks like 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 3 to 4, sort of in that pitch range. So I think I should have something like that. So let me see if I can find a prop. Okay, well, I found this little 8-4 here, an 8-inch diameter number 4 pitch. Let's go ahead and see if it fits on here. I hope I don't have to ream it or try to get it to fit properly, but let's hope so. Nope, I have to ream it out. Hold on a second. Let me grab my prop reaming tool. These are really handy. I don't know who makes this one. Oh, this was an old, yeah, I think this was a Great Plains. I'm not sure. Hopefully it's not too big. Boy, it looks like it's too big for this guy. Yep, that's too big for this. I'm gonna have to drill it out. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and measure that prop shaft and see what we got here. Boy, it looks like a little over 5 centimeters, but closer to about 732. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, yeah, 732. So it's either about 5 millimeters or 732. So let me get a couple drill bits that size, and I'll size them according to like the washer here. make sure that they fit right. I don't want to over drill it. Okay, it looks like 732 is the right size. So let me drill this dude out. That was easy. I don't want to bend my little tool here either, so I got to be careful. That's probably pretty good. Now, I've got this glow plug on here, and I don't have any idea, obviously, what kind of condition it is in. I hope I can run it as it came, but I'm going to go ahead and pull it off, and we'll take a look at it and see if it needs to be replaced right now. If I get a glow on it, I'll try it. Looks like it's in pretty good shape, yeah. So I have no idea. It looks like this engine was run, taken care of at least. Doesn't look like it has any damage. You know, nothing's broken on it. The cooling fins aren't broken. There's no damage to any of it. It's not scratched up. You know, I don't know if this is the original needle valve or not, but it looks like it's pretty good shape. This is a little loose up here, but I'm not concerned about that. Let's give it a go here. Oop, that looks dead. Yeah, that guy looks like it's dead. Hold on a second. Let me turn my knob down again, make sure. Yeah, it's nothing. Yeah, so that glow plug is dead. So I'll replace that right now. And before I put the glow plug in, I'm going to put a little bit of my Marvel mystery oil in here. This is just for air tools. It's a light oil. I'm just going to drip some in there. Okay. And then I'm going to use this A3 OS plug here for small, for smaller engines. Be careful with it. Assuming this is going to work, I'm not even going to test it. All right, I think we're ready to go here. I'll take this outside here in a few minutes and we'll get it set up and we'll get it running. I'm going to check out the RPMs on it. Let's see what it says for the RPMs and the specs here. Okay, well, yeah, it just kind of gives you a range. So the Max 3 15 RC says 2.3 to 15K on the RPMs. Well, I did a little research, a little more looking into, and that little hole that you see right there is actually a primer hole. And what that is used for is if you wanted to prime the engine, you would squirt fuel into that, kind of trying to direct it into the cylinder, and that's how you would prime the engine if you needed to do so. It's a pretty small hole, so I'm not sure how you would do that, but that's what that's for. Okay, well there you have it. I think you saw what I saw, which was a absolutely amazing little engine. And I was checking the specs here in this article, and again, this is an 8.4 prop that I have on here right now. And when they did their test, you can see it right there with an 8.4 with a wood, they had it at 14,000. Well, yeah, 13.8 to 14.4 with an 8.4 prop. They used the PAW wood. I don't know what that is. You know, this is an old article, but in any case, and I think mine were up to around 15,000 RPMs. And they were running a little bit, their fuel was, they were only running a 5% nitro back then on this, for this article, but I'm running about a 15% right now. But yeah, it ran great. Little kind of rough on the pickup, and idled pretty good too. You know, it's a little engine. Little engines tend to be a little, for me at least, tend to be a little bit more difficult to keep them perfectly running. They may run a little bit rough here and there, but boy, this thing really screamed. And man, I don't know. It looks like, I don't know how old this thing is, and I don't know, it looks like it's been taken care of pretty well over the years. Probably didn't get a lot of use, but this thing really ran like a top. And once again, it's another OS Max work of art when it comes to their engines. Just a beautiful engine. So in any case, I think everything worked out okay with this thing, and well, it was really fun. So I hope you enjoyed this little video, and we will see you next time.